Okay, let's unpack this. You know how sometimes you see older folks who are doing great in their 70s, and then they hit 80, and it seems like there's this sudden decline?
Yeah, it happens.
And you might think, well, it's just the luck of the draw, or maybe their genes finally catching up, that sort of thing.
What's fascinating, though, and what our source material today really digs into, is that while those things matter, sure, there are often less obvious reasons why this decline happens.
Less obvious how.
Well, this video we look at from the Elderly Wisdom channel, it suggests there are these things that quietly chip away at health and longevity. Subtle stuff.
Right, and that's what we're diving into. Not the usual advice, eat your greens, don't smoke, get some exercise, we all know that.
Exactly.
This is about 5 unexpected factors, things that can really make a difference in how well people live, and frankly, how long they live past 80.
And the crucial thing, as the video point out, is that understanding these subtle influences, it isn't just interesting information. No, it actually gives you, the listener, the power to maybe make changes. Proactive steps. Doesn't matter how old you are right now.
That's absolutely our mission today. We're taking a close look at this Elderly Wisdom video. The title is Why Most Older People Struggle to Live Past 85 Unexpected Reasons That Quietly Shorten Life. And we want to pull out those surprising, actionable insights so you can understand these, sneaky factors, and maybe even change the way you age before it feels too late.
Sounds good.
So what's the first unexpected piece of this puzzle that the video brings up?
Okay, so the first unexpected reason the video highlights is the loss of something they call microsocial engagement.
Microsocial engagement. Okay, yeah, that sounds a bit academic. What does it actually mean day to day?
Think about all those really small, almost automatic social interactions you have, like a quick hello to the mail carrier, or, a brief chat with the cashier when you're buying groceries, maybe just a wave to a neighbor you see outside.
Right, those little moments, fleeting connections you barely even register sometimes. Why are those so important, especially as we get older?
Well, here's the fascinating bit. These tiny doses of social interaction, they act like little tune-ups for your system.
Tune-ups?
Yeah. They help regulate your stress response, keep it from being constantly on high alert. They also reinforce that feeling of belonging, and they keep the social parts of your brain active, engaged.
So it's like tiny little social vitamins.
That's a great way to put it. They keep your brain's connection network healthy. Research actually suggests these brief interactions release neurotransmitters that buffer stress and promote cognitive resilience.
Huh. So it's not just about feeling a little bit nicer in the moment. It's actually doing something biologically.
Precisely. Now, think about what often happens when people get into their 80s. They might not go out for errands as much.
Right. Maybe they get deliveries or someone helps them.
Exactly. Or maybe hearing becomes more difficult, which makes those casual chats feel like, hard work.
Yeah, I can see that.
Even just being less mobile can mean fewer spontaneous encounters when you're out and about.
And all those little connection points just sort of fade away.
They do. And the video makes a really key point here. People often don't realize the cumulative impact of losing them.
Because each one seems so small.
Yeah. They might feel like they're just simplifying their lives, making things easier, but they're inadvertently cutting out this really vital, low-level social stimulation.
The video mentioned an example, didn't it? A man in his 80s who went to the same coffee shop every day.
Ah, yes, that was a perfect illustration.
How did that help him?
Well, it wasn't just about the coffee, obviously. It was the routine. It was seeing familiar faces, being expected, feeling acknowledged. Those small interactions provided this subtle but really significant form of mental and social engagement, kept him sharp.
Okay, so what's the biological cost when these micro-interactions start to dwindle? What actually happens?
If we zoom out, the brain interprets loneliness, even these subtle forms of it, it sees it as a stressor.
Like a threat?
In a way, yes. And this can lead to imbalances in stress hormones like cortisol, increased inflammation throughout the body.
Inflammation, yeah, that's linked to so many issues.
It is. And a weakening of the immune system. Perhaps even more significantly, it can contribute to a shrinking of the brain networks, the ones involved in memory, attention, emotional regulation.
Wow. So feeling less connected in these small, everyday ways can actually accelerate some of those negative brain changes we associate with getting older.
That's the implication, yes. The video strongly suggests that if you notice these small daily connections fading in your life or someone you know, it's really important to consciously try and rebuild them.
How?
Well, initiating brief conversations, making an effort to run small errands if you can, actively engaging with your local community, even in really small ways.
It's like those little moments are a form of preventative medicine, like the video said, not just for the spirit, but for the body and brain, too.
Exactly. Medicine for staying alive in both years and spirit.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Really powerful. So what's the next surprising factor the video talked about?
The second reason is something they called overcautious inactivity. It's about this really fine line between being, sensibly careful and becoming too cautious as we get older.
Overcautious inactivity. Yeah, I can definitely see how that happens. Someone has a minor slip or a wobble,
Right.
and suddenly they're afraid to move as freely as they used to.
Exactly. It often kicks off with a well-meaning desire to avoid any risk of getting hurt. Maybe a little stumble on an uneven pavement makes someone reluctant to go for walks.
Or they stop reaching for things on higher shelves, maybe stop bending down in the garden.
Yes. And this caution, it often gets reinforced by others, doesn't it? Well-meaning advice like, oh, just take it easy now, or be careful.
And it feels like the responsible thing to do, right? To just be extra careful, avoid any potential accidents, protect yourself.
But here's the twist, and this is where it gets really interesting. The video argues that when we cut back significantly on our movement, we also lose strength.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. Use it or lose it.
Right, but it's not just the big muscles in your arms and legs. It's also your coordination, your balance, even that sort of inner sense of stability.
Ah.
They used a great analogy in the video, compare the body to a garden.
A garden?
Yeah, it needs regular tending, regular movement to thrive. It's not like a machine that stays efficient just by resting.
A garden, not a machine. I like that. So what specific parts of our physical well-being really suffer when we become too still out of caution?
One of the key areas, apparently, is our core muscles.
Our abs and back.
Exactly. Those deep muscles in our torso. Many people don't realize just how vital they are for so many everyday things. Standing up straight, walking steadily, lifting stuff, even just getting in and out of a chair.
Okay.
And when these core muscles aren't used regularly, they can weaken surprisingly quickly. And that directly impacts our balance and stability.
Which actually increases the risk of falls.
Precisely. The very thing the overcaution was trying to prevent in the first place.
Wow. The video told a story about someone named Walter, I think, an 82-year-old who stopped his walks.
That's right, Walter. It really brought the point home. He had a small slip, nothing serious, but it scared him.
So he stopped his evening walks.
He did. And within a relatively short time, he experienced a really noticeable decline in his muscle mass, his mobility, his confidence moving around. He didn't stop walking because he was weak. He became weaker because he stopped walking.
So it creates this dangerous cycle. Fear leads to less movement, which leads to weakness and poor balance, which actually makes a fall more likely.
You've got it. And the video is careful to make a distinction here. Taking sensible precautions is smart.
Like using handrails, wearing good shoes.
Exactly. Clearing walkways, maybe using a cane if needed. That's risk management. That's wise.
But
letting fear dictate a major reduction in your overall activity, that surrender can have really serious negative consequences.
So even if our movements become slower, maybe more deliberate, the act of moving itself is what's crucial for keeping everything online.
Absolutely. Movement, in whatever way is safe and manageable for you, helps the body remember it's needed. It keeps all those physiological systems humming, keeps the brain more alert, helps the heart pump with purpose.
Okay, that's a really, really important distinction. Be mindful, manage risks, but don't let fear paralyze you into stillness. Okay, what's the third unexpected reason from the video?
The third factor is about disrupted sleep cycles from irregular light exposure.
Ah, sleep. Always important.
Definitely. But this focuses specifically on our internal body clock, the circadian rhythm.
Right, the thing that tells us when to be sleepy and when to be awake.
Exactly. And it influences so much more mood, metabolism, immunity, even brain repair during sleep. The video points out that this internal clock becomes particularly sensitive as we move into our 80s. It's like the master controller for your body's 24-hour schedule.
Okay, so it's more easily thrown off balance later in life. How does light play such a big role in disrupting it then?
Well, the key disruptors are, first, not getting enough natural light during the day, and second, getting too much artificial light at night. And think about some common habits that contribute to this. Maybe taking more naps during the day, which is often in a dimmer indoor light.
Sure.
Spending less time outdoors, especially if the weather isn't great or mobility is an issue.
Right.
And then in the evening, maybe more screen time, TV, tablets, or just leaving bright lights on late into the night.
Those all sound like pretty normal things, almost harmless ways people relax or cope with maybe having less energy.
Individually, maybe.
Yeah.
But the video argues that collectively, they send really confusing signals to the body. It messes up the when to be awake and when to wind down cues.
Because our bodies evolved with the sun.
Precisely. We're wired to respond to that natural cycle of light and dark. Bright morning light signals, wake up, time for energy. And darkness triggers melatonin release, the hormone that says, okay, prepare for sleep.
So when those light cues get scrambled, it's not just that we might feel a bit tired the next day. It's bigger than that.
Much bigger. The video lists several potential consequences. Difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep,
Yeah.
persistent grogginess, low energy during the day,
Yeah.
problems with memory and concentration. It can even weaken the immune system
Wow.
and lead to more unstable moods. There's even a potential link, over the long term, to an increased risk of cognitive decline.
And didn't the video also mention vitamin D, how light affects that?
Yes, good point. That's another layer. Our skin's ability to make vitamin D from sunlight decreases as we age.
So we need that sun exposure even more.
Exactly. Getting that natural light is vital not just for our sleep clock, but also for maintaining bone health, muscle strength, and a robust immune system via vitamin D. So less time outdoors hits us twice, in a way.
There was another story, wasn't there? Helen, I think, an 84-year-old.
Yes. Helen's story was really striking. She was struggling with fatigue, feeling disoriented.
And what changed?
She started making a conscious effort to get outside in the morning sunlight, even just for a bit, and she cut back on screen time in the evenings, dimmed the lights.
Simple changes.
Really simple. But they had a significant positive impact. Her sleep improved, her memory felt sharper, her overall mood lifted. It wasn't some complex medical fix. It was just realigning with those basic natural light cycles.
So the big takeaway here is pretty clear. Prioritize getting some natural light, especially earlier in the day.
Within an hour of waking, if possible, the video suggested.
And then be mindful about artificial light in the evening. Dim things down, reduce screen time before bed.
Exactly. The video really underscores that these daily rhythms aren't just about comfort or feeling rested. They're fundamental to how your body organizes itself and functions properly. Sticking to them tells your body, even at 80 or 90, hey, we're still on a healthy schedule here.
Okay, that's really practical, insightful stuff. What's number 4? The fourth unexpected reason for decline after 80.
The fourth reason the video explores is emotional suppression from loss and isolation.
This sounds heavy.
It is. It acknowledges the sheer accumulation of losses many people face by the time they reach their 80s and beyond.
Losing a spouse, siblings, friends they've known forever, sometimes even children. It's an unimaginable amount of grief.
It really is. And the video makes this crucial distinction. While we might acknowledge these losses intellectually, the emotional impact they have on the body itself is often underestimated or pushed aside.
What develops isn't just grief, but maybe a pattern of suppressing it.
Exactly. A pattern of consistently swallowing the sadness, the pain, instead of letting it out.
Why would someone do that, especially after experiencing so much loss?
Well, the video suggests a few things. Maybe a feeling that you should be used to it by now, or that you need to appear strong for remaining family.
Or maybe just not having anyone left who truly understands that specific loss, who you feel safe being vulnerable with.
That too. So the tendency can be to put on a brave face, try to carry on without really processing those deep, difficult emotions.
But that unexpressed grief, that sadness, it doesn't just evaporate, does it? It has to go somewhere.
No, it doesn't. The video explains that when these powerful emotions aren't acknowledged and processed healthily, they can get stored in the body, almost like tension.
Stored how? What does that do?
Over time, this can have real physiological effects. It can potentially impact the immune system, our digestion, sleep patterns, hormone balance. It could put the nervous system into a kind of chronic, low-level stress state.
Because unprocessed grief acts like a constant stressor.
That's the idea. It can trigger that chronic stress response, cortisol, inflammation markers, which, over the long haul, can impair organ function and even accelerate aging.
And this could be happening even if someone looks okay on the outside, if they say they're doing fine.
Precisely. That outward calmness might mask a really significant internal emotional burden. The video told that poignant story about George.
Right, after his wife died, he seemed okay.
He seemed to be coping outwardly, but then not too long after, he experienced a noticeable decline in his overall health, his energy, his engagement with life. It was like his body was carrying this weight of sorrow that hadn't been allowed a healthy outlet.
So it's hammering home that it's not just about physical strength for living longer. Our emotional health, our ability to actually feel and process difficult stuff is just as vital.
Absolutely. The video uses the term emotional ventilation.
Emotional ventilation.
Yeah. Having safe, healthy ways to express
Yeah.
sadness, fear, longing, whatever it is, without feeling judged. That allows the heart and mind to actually process these experiences.
Which in turn supports the body's ability to stay healthy.
Exactly.
So what are some of those healthy outlets? How do people achieve that ventilation?
The video suggested several possibilities. Nurturing connections with trusted friends or family members you can really open up to.
Okay.
Keeping a journal, just writing feelings down, can be powerful. Engaging with faith or a spiritual community, if that's meaningful. Or seeking support from a therapist or a grief counselor.
Finding a safe space, essentially.
Yes. The key is finding some outlet where those deep emotions can be expressed and acknowledged, not just bottled up.
There's that saying, what gets expressed can be transformed, what gets buried festers. That really seems to apply here.
It really does. Actively making space to acknowledge and process these powerful emotions seems crucial for long-term well-being, according to this perspective.
Ignoring them or suppressing them just quietly undermines our health as we age. Okay. That's a really profound one, often missed, I think. What's the fifth and final unexpected reason the video highlighted?
The fifth and final reason is the gradual loss of daily purpose.
Daily purpose. Okay, now this isn't talking about finding the meaning of life, right? Not some huge philosophical quest.
No, exactly. It's much more grounded than that. It's about the simple, everyday routines and reasons we have to get out of bed and engage with the day ahead.
So like small tasks, things to look forward to, routines that give the day some shape.
Precisely. Things like, tending to a few houseplants, feeding a pet that relies on you, maybe writing a weekly letter or email to a friend. Simple household tasks that need doing.
They seem so small, almost insignificant on their own.
They do. But the video argues that when these little anchors in our day start to disappear, something inside us can begin to quietly power down.
Power down? How does lacking that kind of simple daily purpose affect us physically?
Well, it taps into that powerful mind-body connection again. When there's no perceived reason to really engage with the day, the body can kind of follow suit.
How so?
Appetite might drop off. Physical movement might slow down naturally. Even the systems that regulate our overall health immunity, repair processes, they can become less active. Not necessarily because they're broken, but because they lack that clear signal, that reason to function with their usual vigor.
And the video mentioned how this loss of purpose can sneak up on you, right? It's gradual.
Very gradual. Maybe a regular bridge game gets canceled and isn't replaced. A church group stops meeting. Visits from family become less frequent for various reasons. A volunteer role ends.
And suddenly, the days start to blur together. Quieter, less structure, less meaning.
Exactly. The story they shared about Ruth, the 88-year-old who kept her vitality, really illustrated the power of the opposite.
What did she do?
Simple things. Daily and weekly routines. Writing postcards to friends kept her connected. Making a pot of soup for a neighbor gave her a task and social interaction. Even just watching the neighborhood children play from her window gave her day a rhythm.
Nothing dramatic, but it gave her day a framework, a sense of connection, of usefulness maybe.
And that's the core idea. The video emphasizes that purpose, even in these really modest forms, acts like essential fuel. It sends a signal to our cells, keep repairing, to our organs, keep functioning, to our brain, stay engaged with the world around you.
So when we lose that sense of relevance, that feeling that our presence or actions matter, even in small ways, it kind of dims our inner flame.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. It dims the flame.
So having something that gives structure and maybe a tiny sense of accomplishment each day, no matter how small it seems, is incredibly important for staying vital.
Absolutely. It could be tending a small garden box, looking after a pet, a daily journaling habit, a regular morning ritual like prayer or meditation, just something that provides a reason to rise and a feeling of continuity.
And consistency matters more than how big the task is.
So, just having that reason, that anchor in the day.
So if someone listening is feeling a bit adrift or like their days are lacking meaning, that's actually a significant signal, not just a mood.
Exactly. The video frames it as the body and mind sending a signal. We need rhythm, we need structure, we need connection, we need purpose, however small it might seem. Because ultimately, living a long life isn't just about the machinery holding out.
It's about having a reason to keep the machinery running.
Yes. having a reason to keep actively engaged with life itself.
Wow. Okay, these 5 reasons: loss of microsocial engagement, overcautious inactivity, disrupted light and sleep cycles, emotional suppression, and loss of daily purpose. They are definitely not the first things most of us think about when we wonder why some people seem to fade after 80.
No, they're much more subtle.
It really highlights how these quieter factors, the ones often overlooked, can have such a significant impact.
That really is the core message from the source. It's often not one big thing, not a sudden event, but more like a slow, quiet erosion of these fundamental habits, rhythms, and reasons to stay fully connected and engaged.
But, and this is the hopeful part, the encouraging news is that because these shifts are often gradual,
They can also be reversed gradually.
right, through small, conscious effort.
Precisely. The video ends on a really empowering note, actually, saying that even making small, deliberate changes in any of these 5 areas can potentially have a significant positive impact on how we experience getting older.
So for you listening right now, maybe take a second to just reflect on these 5 unexpected reasons we've talked through.
Microsocial engagement, overcautious inactivity, disrupted sleep from light exposure, emotional suppression, loss of daily purpose.
Which of those, if any, kind of resonated with you? Which one felt maybe familiar, either in your own life or perhaps in the lives of older people you know?
And maybe even more importantly, what's just one small, manageable action you could potentially take starting today to begin addressing one of these areas? Just one small thing.
Because you have more power, more agency than you might realize in shaping how you age.
It seems those who stay aware of these quieter shifts, who actively guard their daily rhythms, protect their sense of purpose, and importantly, allow themselves to actually feel and process their emotions.
They have a much greater chance of not just living longer past 80, but of living those years fully, deeply, on their own terms.
It's definitely food for thought. We really encourage you to mull over these insights, maybe even chat about them with someone else. Consider how these subtle factors might be playing out quietly in your own life or in the lives of people you care about.